or so, we have advanced in every possible frontier, more so than we have in the past 100,000 years prior to that. Through our advancement in transport, we're able to go anywhere in the world. Through advancements in medicine, we can live longer, healthier lives. Through advancements in technology, we can unravel the mysteries of the universe and discover our place in it. Now, in our drive for innovation, we have created things that benefit us, but also things that could potentially cause us great harm. The development of nuclear weapons is a prime example of that. It is something that, if used simultaneously, will guarantee mutual destruction and total annihilation. And yet, we're ready to take that risk. In the pursuit of development and advancement, for our betterment, we are prepared to develop things that may potentially destroy us. Foreshadowing. Our fascination with innovation has been around for millennia. From the use of simple tools like sticks and stones to more complex tools and to tools today that can think for themselves. But the growth of that and acceleration of that has been quite flat for a long time, with a huge spike in the last 100 years or so. It's only natural for us to ask, what would the next 100 years hold for us as a species? How much further can we go? Is there such a thing as too far, too fast? Are we really advancing the human species or leading it down a path of destruction? Or worse, replacement? One can only speculate. But by taking a look at the past, we can draw a kind of trajectory and pitch that into the future and kind of catch a glimpse of what the future might hold. So, let's go into the past a little bit. Picture, if you will, a time when the world was full of uncertainty. A life where your greatest achievement for the day is surviving to the next. A life where half the children you had didn't make it, and the ones that did, the lucky half, well, they got about 30 years to live. One in which where you lived depended on what was available to eat. The moment that changed, you either moved or you starved. That was the human condition. And over the course of 200,000 years, modern humans have grown, they've evolved, and expanded. And most of that has been exponential in the last couple of centuries. Take something like fire, for instance. Can you imagine there was a time when we didn't have the use of fire? Can you picture the first time we learned how to use it, how to control it, how to spark it on command, to utilize it for what we need when we need? And now, 7,000 years later, we carry fire in our pockets. But, you see, while fire's been around forever, and our use of fire has been around for millennia, the lighter wasn't invented until 1823. And you'll see example after example like this in every area that affects humans. Instead of a product, let's take an industry. Take transport, for instance. For 200,000 years, modern humans have traveled on foot. And in 4000 BC, we started domesticating horses. And in 3500 BC, we invented one of our greatest hits, the wheel. And we took that wheel and we slapped it on a wooden box and attached the wooden box to the horses we've been domesticating for 500 years. And we had our first cart. Now, 5,000 years passes by since then, with no significant improvement at all. Until 1662, when we invent the first horse-driven public bus. Now, notice how fast things accelerate from there. 5,000 years of barely any improvement. 140 years after 1662, we have the first steam road locomotive. Just 13 years after that, the first steam-powered railway train. 2 years after that, we have the first bicycle. And 60 years after that, in 1886, Carl Benz invents the first gasoline-powered automobile for modern-day use. Now, only 20 years after the invention of the car, in 1903, the Wright brothers break through a barrier that has been the fascination of humans that ever walked the planet. And for the first time, having conquered the lands and commandeered the seas, humans take their first step in dominating the skies. An ability, by the way, which up until that point was only attributed to the gods. And a few years later, less than 70, in 1969, we put a guy on the moon. Fast forward to now, 4 decades later, we're trying to colonize another planet. That's just transport. But you'll see this kind of change and advancement over the last 100 years or so in every arena that affects us. We went from oil lamps to electric light, from electric light to fluorescent lights, and from fluorescent lights to LED lights that can illuminate entire cities at minimal energy consumption. We went from handwritten manuscripts to the printing press, from the printing press to newspapers, newspapers to radio broadcasting, from radio to television, where you can watch live events in real time from around the world. We went from handwritten letters to the telegram to the landline telephone, and the landline telephone to mobile phones, and now to smartphones. Vinyl records were overtaken by cassette tapes by CDs, CDs by MP3 players, and MP3s by streaming services that offer us millions of songs on demand. The world was introduced to GPS navigation systems, virtual classrooms, cloud storage, vaccines, artificial hearts, prosthetic limbs, cures for the incurable, you name it. The list goes on. And while we take all of this for granted today, just 120 years ago, in the year 1900, if the wealthiest person alive lived in the hottest part of the world, that person would not have been able to feel the cooling, soothing sensation of an air conditioner on a treacherously hot day for all their money's worth, because it wasn't invented till 1902. In other words, the average person today has more comfort, more convenience, more information, more safety, and a better quality of life than the richest, wealthiest people a couple hundred years ago. A lot of these things we hear about it, we're like, what's the big deal? Because we have it and we experience it every day. But these are incredible things. Access to clean water, round-the-clock electricity, instant access to information that constitutes the entirety of human knowledge, fast and affordable transportation of every mode, whether you're traveling by land, by sea, or by air, communication with anyone, anytime, anywhere, instantly, with almost no language barrier, the highest level of healthcare that has ever existed, to prevent diseases before they happen and cure the ones that do. Clean and renewable energy. Entertainment. I mean, we have access to more of a variety of entertainment on this device alone, 24/7, on demand, than the greatest, mightiest, wealthiest kings in all of history. Photos, videos, movies, stories, books, songs, performances, magic, social media. I mean, what's the point of having all the money in the world if salad you just had and share it with total random strangers on public platforms, right? Hashtag live my best life. See, if we were around the time of the dinosaurs with the technology we have today, that asteroid would have never made impact. And even if we couldn't stop it, we would have at least nuked it to fragments and controlled the damage. Of course, it's also probable to assume that if we were around the time of the dinosaurs, we would have probably triggered global warming 65 million years ago when the dinosaurs might have died anyway. But I don't want to get caught up with it. But the point is, over the course of the last couple of centuries, we became the only species who has the ability to destroy our own planet. Or save it from being destroyed. So, that brings us back to our original question. What are we going to find 100 years from now? What is the world going to look like? Well, the greatest revolution that's going to define the rest of this century is going to be the rise of artificial intelligence. Over the course of the years, we've had many disruptive revolutions that's challenged the status quo and redirected the course of human history. We've had 4 major industrial revolutions. We had coal in the 1700s, gas in the 1800s. We had electronics and nuclear in the 1900s, and the internet and renewable energy in the 2000s. The next revolution will be the cognitive age. And the cognitive age will radically reform the landscape on unprecedented levels. But that's okay. Because you see, as human beings, one of our finest characteristics is the fact that we are able to adapt so well in the face of overwhelming changes. It's one of the characteristics that has put us at the top of the food chain. The question is, for how long? Because one of our other key characteristics is the fact that we are the smartest species on the planet. What happens when that position gets challenged and we have to contend with machines that can think and learn and emulate human intelligence, and we have no choice but to reflect on our own vulnerabilities or boundaries and capacities as sentient beings? We'd like to believe that while AI will excel in many areas, that it won't cross over into domains that have aspects of human experience, our capacity for empathy, compassion, moral reasoning. We're always asking, who am I? Why am I here? And by asking these kinds of questions, we give meaning to an otherwise cold and heartless universe. Would the universe be as magnificent if we went around to observe it, study it, and admire it? Is there beauty without a beholder? But as we gradually start to see AI systems performing tasks that were once considered exclusive to human cognition, we'll be faced with having to ask what our own purpose is. What is the nature of our existence? It's hard to imagine that there'll come a day when a machine will be able to express empathy or emotional recognition. But there was a time when humans didn't appreciate those sentiments. Who's to say that one day a machine might not be able to express affection or display love? Because, you see, there's something very different when it comes to AI. It's not like anything else we've created. With everything else, we say we've designed it, we developed it, we created it. AI is the first thing that humans have created that we describe as evolving. And as it evolves, smarter and better, perhaps even at things that make us us. What becomes of the nature of our own existence? Now, there are those who are fascinated by this. You know, because AI is not just evolving, it's evolving with unparalleled speed and sophistication. And the last time something that evolves was introduced into this world, we're told it was initiated by the Creator himself. So, have we gone too far? Have we crossed the line? Are we playing God? Or is AI just the next natural step of the evolutionary process? Either way, we're creating something that has the potential to be smarter, exponential, and self-governing. How long is it going to be before we are not smart enough to contain it? There are those who are hopeful that AI will reach a level like that and help us solve the problems of the world. But what if it does that? Only it realizes that we are the problem. Too far? Okay. All right. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. Maybe we're being slightly paranoid. But that's because we don't really know the full implications of artificial intelligence. We're just speculating. And that's all this is, after all. We speculate on the future. We don't know anything for sure. Except maybe this. We started off asking what we're going to find in the future over the next 100 years or so. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to find. We'll find an answer. A definitive one to what it truly means to be human. Because unlike anything in all of our history, nothing is going to challenge us to look inside, deeper into ourselves, and ask who we are, what we are, and what our purpose really is than the rise of artificial intelligence. Now, before I go, let me leave you with one final thought. This has kept me up at night, and since misery loves company, I thought of sharing it with you. Humans are always fascinated about the universe, and always asking, are we alone? Could there be other beings in a galaxy far, far away, aliens who are smarter than us, from a civilization more advanced than us? When will they visit us? If they ever will at all. We're always waiting for them to show up. Maybe even guide us, enlighten us, help us in our own quest. Perhaps we don't need to wait anymore. Perhaps the aliens are already here.